Ladies,
Gentlemen,
married people,
courting couples,
and all our single folk,
we've got something
just for you. Marriage Mentors.
Sky 99.5 FM Reloaded is the place to be every second and fourth Thursday from 9 p.m.
to 11 p.m.
with yours truly, Mr. and Mrs. Mahon. Join the conversation as we dive deep into the taboo topics around love, marriage, and relationships. Topics like sex and intimacy,
How to live and cleave,
money,
trust issues,
infidelity,
singles in the church,
and more. So join us every second and fourth Thursday from 9 p.m.
to 11 p.m.
right here on Sky 99.5 FM Reloaded.
And of course, it's just about that time, 2 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. A good evening once again, and welcome officially to Marriage Mentors for this evening. Good evening, Mrs. Mahon.
Good evening to you.
And how do you do?
I'm doing good.
Ready for today?
I'm ready.
You're ready?
I'm ready.
In talking to convince.
I'm green and ready.
Green means ready. Well, green means going.
Yes.
Okay, I get you. I feel you on that one. I feel you on that one. So, without further ado, let's just jump right in. So, we're doing a new topic today, and
we are.
The topic is quite a tied up one.
Very funny.
Pun intended. But yeah, we want to untie some of those ties. We're discussing soul ties, SOUL, not SOLE. Soul ties, SOUL, the ties of the soul, and how to untie them. Is it even possible to untie them? Let's delve into that this evening. So,
but before we delve into the topic, we always encourage you to.
I keep forgetting that.
Yes, because you're speedy. Yeah, we always encourage you to
Thank you for being my hand.
to grab a notepad and a pen or some sort of device so that you can take notes. So you can encourage someone if you're not married, you have no intentions of being married. You could encourage someone else, or even if you're married, there's always something to learn. Yeah, so we encourage you not only to sit back and gather all the information, but feel free to send in your contributions as well, yeah?
Join the conversation.
Yeah, so you can send us your messages via WhatsApp, 333-9950. That's 333-9950. Or you can give us a call, 624-7729 or 625-2759. Throughout the conversation, feel free to jump in. Something stood out to you, so call us or send us a WhatsApp message if you're too shy to call. Yeah, and even if you want to ask a question, and it's a private matter, feel free to send us your messages via WhatsApp. We won't call your name. We'll try our best to answer the question to the best of our ability. And as we always say, if we can't answer it immediately, we will answer it. If not in the next session, we'll answer it probably before. Privately, you never know how it goes. So feel free to message. No question is stupid. It's a learning experience for all of us. So yeah, this is what Marriage Mentors is about. It's a conversation. It's not just us coming and teaching. No, it's a conversation. We love to hear from you as you love to hear from us. So hope you love to hear from us. So blessings to you who would have just joined us. Yeah, and if it is people supposed to be here and they're not here, yeah, run fast.
Give them
a call. Give them a call. Send them a WhatsApp. Let them know they start.
Call Sister Patsy, tell her we on.
What do you have with Sister Patsy? Sister Patsy ain't doing nothing.
Yes. So soul ties, soul ties, soul ties, soul ties. And a lot of the times we've always heard it. I think it really only emerged somewhere around
Mm-hmm.
um, the 2000s, thereabout.
The 2000s.
Yeah, 2000s.
Going back in history there, boy.
Yeah, it emerged somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was largely used um, within Christian faith,
Mm-hmm.
Christendom. It was largely used. The term was
Mm-hmm.
coined there, but it was adapted and adopted in every sphere, every walk of
Mm-hmm.
life, um, which because it captured the meaning or it described something that I guess in some sense was indescribable
Mm-hmm.
or untermed before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and since then, it really stuck and continues to stick some people.
And in case you're wondering, if you're unsure of what exactly is a soul tie, um, the dictionary definition for a soul tie is an emotional or spiritual connection between two people. Um, it can be formed through relationships and interactions with certain individuals, and it goes from family members, friends, co-workers, romantic partners, and even pets. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know
Yeah.
pets was inside of this whole soul tie thing.
Because we tend to only limit it to
Humans.
human to
Hmm.
human
Hmm.
relationships, particularly inside of a romantic
Hmm.
relationship. But you can see now why we have some things like very weird relationships between siblings and parent to child,
Hmm.
whether paternal or maternal. Um, we can see that there are soul ties
Yeah.
where people have issues with leaving and cleaving. Now, we discussed that topic before. And
Hmm.
now, when we put this concept inside of it, it
Hmm.
even unpackages more
Yeah.
understanding
Hmm.
where that
It
comes
does.
into play.
It does.
Why some persons find difficulty
Hmm.
in leaving
Hmm.
and uncleaving and their inability to cleave inside of their marriage
Yeah.
because simply that there is an existent soul tie that they haven't resolved
Mm-hmm.
or cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, some ties you just need to cut.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into
Snip, snip.
material.
Mm-hmm.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. So as we were saying before, um, we're discussing soul ties, and this evening we're looking at unhealthy soul ties, right? So we'll go into what exactly is an unhealthy soul tie, and then we'll get into ways in which we can break those soul ties, right? Um, maybe in this same session. If not, it will we will have to do a part two
If
to get to that.
mhm.
Yeah. Um. So unhealthy soul ties, as we said, can be emotionally draining because there is a emotional and spiritual connection between you and someone else. Um, which can become emotionally draining and psychologically damaging, often trapping individuals, listen, in cycles of manipulation, control, and emotional distress. Yeah.
this
So,
this actually puts into perspective. I'm sure we've seen instances of abusive relationships
mhm.
where you'd wonder why, but why she keep going back?
Yeah.
Why is it that she keeps going back to
Mm.
this man or he keeps going back to this woman
Your soul tied.
and he or she is
Yeah.
being abused?
Mm-hmm.
You when you see that happening and it's just not logical,
Mm-hmm.
it's because that there's a emotional connection that nobody
Yeah.
sees with the physical
even though
eye.
even though it's toxic,
Hmm.
even though it's um affecting not just your emotional well-being,
Hmm.
but it also affects your ability to make rational decisions.
Yeah.
it destroys us. It
Very
destroys
much
us a
so.
lot. And the sad thing about it is we don't understand how serious a soul tie is. And not just that, um we don't understand, we don't know how to break it,
Mhm,
even if we do recognize and say, hey, yeah, this is a soul tie. But how do I break the soul tie? I remember I never got to read the book in its entirety, but I remembered it up to today. Um, breaking breaking unhealthy soul ties. Yeah, and I think that was by Bill and Sue
mhm,
Banks.
mhm.
Yeah, I remember. I remember looking at that book up to today. I wish I had the chance to read it even before coming on air, but
Mhm.
it wasn't possible.
Yeah.
There's a lot in the book. Yeah, but there are so many things out there that can help us overcome
Mhm,
or break unhealthy soul ties, but we can't break something that we're not aware of.
mhm,
Yeah, so this is what we have come to discuss with you this evening: how to recognize unhealthy soul ties, and what it does to the individual, to
mhm.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it is we don't break it. So this is what this conversation is all about this evening. We're discussing soul ties, or we should say breaking unhealthy soul
Unhealthy
ties.
soul ties. Mhm.
Yeah. Miss Nola Jackson, blessings to you. Welcome.
And we have a voice note here from Singrid. Let me see if I can get that one. Here we go.
Hi, Lynden and Dana. When you say soul ties, it's like if sometimes it have two parties. Well, there's lovers, husband and wife, and like you want to get away and you can't get away. Is like it's soul ties. Is that one? What explain to me, please?
Good question. Um, if you were to break the words, it's a conjunctive term. You break the two words, separate them. Ties of the soul. And it simply means, yes, what you're talking about, that inability, because there is some bond that always causes the person to be connected to this other
Mm-hmm.
person in some strange way, even though they probably moved on. And I use that in inverted commas because you haven't totally moved on if you haven't cut the ties, right? But they've moved on physically,
Yeah.
but not entirely in their emotions or psychologically.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that weird connection to the past and to that person that they now have. Sometimes it may just seem nostalgic, but it's not just nostalgia. It's also ties of the soul that is creating, that is also presenting itself in this form um, in the future. So when you see this coming up, there are many different ways it will show its head.
As you said that, I'll jump in here. Um, these ties can form in various types of relationships,
Mhm.
such as romantic, platonic, or even family, and often lead to a cycle of dependency and emotional distress. So the individual might just feel trapped. Yeah, to answer your question, might just feel trapped, unable to break free from the relationship despite recognizing its negative impact. Over time, an unhealthy soul tie can erode self esteem, impair judgment, and lead to a diminished sense of self worth.
Mhm.
So you see, this is how much it destroys us, which is like what she was asking.
Yeah.
Just to have a better understanding
Understanding.
of what it is. So it's going into it more and more, it's very scary. It destroys us a lot. And sometimes we we see all these signs, but we're still unaware.
Mm-hmm.
of what the cause of it is, what the root of the problem is, because you'll be in a relationship or you'll be very close to a family member, but even inside of your relationship with that family member or a friend or a partner, you'll have all these signs.
Mm-hmm.
But then you'll ask yourself why, and you'll continue to question yourself. So why is it that I'm not good enough for this person, and why this and why that and why the other? And you're trying to come out and you can't come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't know how to come out. So I pray that even after this session, we'll be able to recognize this a whole lot easier, and we'll be able to fully understand more and know that it's okay to admit that, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is an unhealthy soul tie and it needs to be broken.
Yeah. And I think even as we put this into to context, um, because everybody has to evaluate. We were having this conversation recently, and everyone has to evaluate. It doesn't matter at which stage you are in this in your life.
Mhm.
Um, ask yourself, do I have any of those?
Yeah.
And it's a healthy question to ask yourself. Do I have any of those? And how is it presenting itself in my present circumstances?
That's something we were having, both of us,
Mm-hmm.
we were having a conversation on Sunday morning, and I remember you would have asked me a particular question that had me thinking of it made me realize how possible it is to even if it is I don't have it. I didn't even know that it was possible to um be married and you're settled
The
in your marriage and you're still
tied
tied
to
to
someone.
someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I didn't know that. So it's brought awareness, it raised awareness. Um, and that's something that we would like to point out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think it's,
Because you're married and
yeah,
seemingly
you find safety in the marriage and you, no, that's just a place for you to hide.
Mhm. You know that saying that says old fire stick easy to catch?
Mm-hmm.
That's what that kind of points to. Um because
I would have heard you for that
and last Monday, and not Monday
when
here,
we
but
had the
when we
conversation,
had the
yeah,
conversation
on
about
it.
um
Mm-hmm.
sayings that you grew up hearing. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was Josephine would have mentioned that one. And that's essentially what it's talking about, the ability for that to reignite at any time,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a tie, there is a connection, and it's beyond just having being romantically involved with the person. Many a times we think, okay, romance is just nice fluffy feelings that we have, and then you add, if you would have been sexually active with the person,
Mm-hmm. But makes it even stronger.
which makes it even stronger. But it goes beyond those two things.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, too, it described it as also a
Yes.
psychological connection. And that is much harder to
Mm-hmm.
break. That's what makes the 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 sex easier to break. That's what makes the emotional connection harder to break because of that psychological connection.
Mm-hmm.
And when something is ingrained in your psychology, in the fabric of your psychology, you have to do a lot more work to
Yeah.
undo that.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, because I've heard scientists say this, when you look at the human brain, an adult brain compared to a child's brain, there are less indentations or tracks.
Yeah.
When you if you were to visualize what a brain looks like, it almost looks like intestines,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really a muscle,
Mm-hmm.
a set of tissue. But the older we get, there's seams and indentations that actually grow, if you could put it that
Mm-hmm.
way, on the human brain.
Yeah.
And that's because of habit.
Mm-hmm.
Habit of doing everything. So if you have a habit of sweeping a certain way, there's an indentation that's representative of sweeping
Mm-hmm.
the floor a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
If you with every relationship or a soul tie. So it's representative. It's like it's etched into who you are,
Yeah.
and that is not very easy to break. You
Mm-hmm.
actually have to do a lot more conscious work because it's a habit
Mm.
that you've now formed. Every habit that you've formed, whether psychological, emotional, physical, any kind of habit that you've formed, creates a mark on who you are.
Yeah.
And changing that. So when you think about a soul tie, that's why it's been given such a strong word.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that you can just, hey, well, I was with this person and I could just walk away tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go through. That's why I would have always recommended to anyone getting into a relationship. You just came out of one. Think about, take some time and restore your singleness.
Mm-hmm.
Take some time and learn to become single again. And that's what it really talks about, dealing with those unfinished ties or those, you can't even call it loose ends. That's knots dragging. When I say knots, knots as in Knot.
Oh.
Knot.
Well, thank you for
I have to
clearing
clear
that
that
up.
up.
Thank you so much for clearing that up. Because I really thought something else. I mean, we're
Yeah, ties, ties,
discussing inside the
ties,
segment marital influence.
ties that are literally connecting you to a particular person,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's another person that you're
Mm-hmm.
now supposed to be giving yourself and building a new kind of psychology with.
Yeah.
Um, if it is you still have those connections, then it's impossible to give who you are with now
Mm-hmm.
any anything wholesome because there is still a part of you tied to the past.
Mm-hmm.
Vernell. Let's get these voice notes.
That is so serious. Just imagine you're in a relationship and things going bad and you want to come out to get away and you can't get away.
Mhm.
I wouldn't like to be in a relationship like that because when I want to get out, I like to get out.
Mm.
You understand?
Mhm.
That's a real serious topic, serious thing. So time. Oh, God.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Whole fire stick easy to get. That you say, you know. When it goes sour, it's something else.
As she was saying that, it reminds me of a situation that I would have come across many times, um, looking at relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you would have heard this at any point in time, probably, but for those listening, I'm sure you would have come across it, or you might have said it at one point where you would have compared one relationship, or you heard someone compare one relationship to another, and the statement was, "My ex never did this to me,"
Mm-hmm.
right?
A lot of people love to do that.
Love to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That is also almost a surefire um, signal of a soul tie.
Hmm.
And that's because there is that habit that's still scripted, it's inscribed, it's engraved in your
Yeah.
memory so much that you're bringing that comparison, and it can be very dangerous
Hmm.
to where you are presently.
Mm-hmm.
So when you begin to do those things, and many a times people's, if we could put it this way, people's sexual preferences are tied to what they would have done in the past, and those are very, very problematic things. You see how deep this thing can go in terms of layers and parts of who we are that makes up our daily relational package. If it is we're not able to clarify and deal with, sever those ties, put those things away, disconnect ourselves, all these things, if we're not able to do that, how much it can damage or change the future going forward. It's serious.
It's very serious.
It's serious.
No, it's just that it's mind blowing because
Yes.
the more we talk about it, is the deeper it gets.
Mhm.
Whew.
Yeah. Go
Hmm.
ahead.
Yes. So back to our notes.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna highlight some signs of an unhealthy soul tie. So the first one is emotional dependency.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most telling signs of an unhealthy soul tie is an overwhelming emotional dependency on the other person. You may feel incomplete, or you might feel anxious without their approval
Mm-hmm.
or even their presence, leading to a cycle of emotional highs and lows that are dependent on their actions or their moods.
Mm-hmm. Now, now that we're doing looking at the unhealthy traits, I want us to look at it from a couple angles,
Mhm,
right? Look at it from the angle of one being inside of a relationship,
mhm.
an unhealthy relationship, and also one that would have that an unhealthy relationship is now in your rearview mirror,
Yeah.
right? Because if it is that you are now the unhealthy relationship is in the past, and you find yourself with some measure of void
Mhm,
because you're thinking about what used to be,
mhm,
you won't be in the present. Therefore, you will feel some measure of overwhelming
mhm,
emotional
mhm,
dependency on the past.
mhm.
And
That's
think
true.
and think about how much you're robbing your present relationship
Mhm, mhm.
because of that connection, that
Yeah.
toxic connection to the
Mhm,
past. That is very problematic. Whether you're in it or it's now in your rearview mirror, it's now
mhm.
past.
Yeah.
If you're still tied to it, it's still going to be troublesome. Mm-hmm.
So we're on to the second point: loss of personal identity. Loss of personal identity. In an unhealthy soul tie,
Mm-hmm.
you may find that you've lost your sense of self and individuality, your thoughts, your opinions, even your daily activities may become increasingly aligned with the other person's to the detriment of your own personal growth and self-expression.
Now, these are things that can actually happen in one's present
Hmm.
relationship, even whether both of you are Christians.
Yeah,
Yeah, both of you are believers, and this can actually happen.
yeah. It
Where
goes beyond our belief.
Mhm. And one may begin to carry your mind into, well, isn't that essentially what's supposed to happen? They're supposed to leave their singleness behind, their single personality, and be joined and stuff like that. But your sense of personal identity
Mm-hmm.
kind of still remains intact.
Yeah.
Your fundamentally your who you are remains the same. You may pack on a few pounds here and there
Mm-hmm.
if that may be the case, or you may lose some depending on your marriage. You just had
Yeah.
a humorous
Mm-hmm.
thought. But in the midst of it, essentially the fabric of who you are isn't supposed to break down
Mm-hmm.
because you're in this relationship. So you don't want to create a weird sense of dependency on your spouse
Mm-hmm.
that that now you are incapable. This is why sometimes grief becomes so unbearable
Mm-hmm.
when someone dies,
Yeah.
because their tie, who they've been
Mm-hmm.
tied to,
Mm-hmm.
dies, and you see sometimes the other one dies soon after.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times, I'm not saying that husband and wife should not be psychologically connected. They
Mm-hmm.
should,
Mm-hmm.
but it shouldn't be unhealthy.
Yeah.
An unhealthy practice is still an unhealthy practice,
Mm-hmm.
if we could
Mm-hmm.
put it that way. Yeah. So don't lose your even in your marriage, and in your relationship, don't lose this sense of stability in your identity,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's not talking about, well, I am my own woman and I am my own man, and she could go and do what. No, you're still you still have a measure of oneness that you have to create, but that oneness is because two different people came together
Mm-hmm.
and they're working together in a particular direction. It's not that you just be a photocopy of the other. It's not that. You still have to maintain your sense of personal identity that is cohesive and coherent with your marriage. Yeah.
You're saying those points so fast. I'm taking notes as well. Could you repeat, please, sir?
Which ones?
Don't lose your sense of.
Don't lose your sense of personal identity,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
even inside of the requirement
Mm-hmm.
to build together. You have a responsibility as a couple to build in the same direction, same purpose. But the beauty of it, it's two different people that
Mm-hmm.
came together to
Yeah.
become one. So it's not that I am becoming a copy of you and you
Mm-hmm.
becoming a copy of me. You're still inherently who you are. You're still Dana, Dance.
Yeah.
I'm still Lyndon, right?
Done. Done.
I'm still me. Yes, we are married, and you can see the evidence of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have a psychological connection. We were discussing the parameters of our own psychological connection and how strong and how real that is. One of the ways that that can happen, you have ever seen a couple where they can have an entire conversation without saying a word in
Yeah.
a room filled with people. That's how, that's one of the ways you can tell that, yes, you do have a soul tie, but that's a healthy soul tie. Um,
Or you'll be saying something and the other person will complete
each
the
other's
sentence.
sentences. Yeah. So
That
those are
happens
things
with us.
all the time, all the time. So those are things like one of the things that I told my wife this week, when we were discussing something, and that's how the topic was birthed.
Mm-hmm.
um I remember telling her this was something that used to happen with me all the time. If it is I am upset about something within our relationship, I don't have, from the moment it's in my brain, but from the moment I voice the thing, we will end up in an argument about it. Like within 24 to 48 hours, we will end up in an argument. And you know why?
And voice as in not even
Not
for
even
me
to
to
her.
hear.
Not even to her. Even if I pray about it. When I say pray about it, just Lord, you know this bother me. And I say what it is, it's almost like it reaches her brain.
Mhm.
And you're now, this is why I said something we were talking about recently on the air. And I said, um, especially when someone knows what they did wrong
Mhm.
and they come and ask, well, what did I do?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Hmm.
Um, now that I know that she knows, that's something that will be a trigger for me. So if she comes in, I know that she knows, and she comes and asks me, well, what did I do wrong? And I know that she knows, and she knows that I know. We have a common knowledge, and it's not that we're meeting from a place of understanding. It's like you just want me to see.
I mean, sometimes it's good to
It's
communicate.
good to communicate,
Yes.
but how do we,
Communication is always important.
true, but we're seeing how deep and how strong that
It
psychological
is. It
connection
is.
is.
It's very strong.
And it's something, yes, you want to build,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to ensure that you build it healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are healthy things that we can build and very unhealthy things that we do build
Yeah.
in relationships.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, yes, we're moving on to point number three.
Hmm.
But before that, just want to welcome those of you who just joined. We're discussing the topic soul ties, and this is marriage mentors.
Before you move on, we have
Mhm.
a voice note.
Even your daily
Blessings,
activities
Linda and
will
Adana.
become increasingly aligned with the other
Could the
person
soul tie
to the detriment
extend
of your own
after the person dies?
self.
Or is it that when it died at the end of it. Just asking.
That's a good
Very
question.
good
That's a
question.
very good question.
Very good question. And I'll say this much. No. Um, it can actually extend beyond the life of the person simply because um, the human capacity in terms of the psychological makeup of who we are, we're able to carry memories in a way that can be very bothersome, dangerous, and toxic.
Mhm.
That's why I will say the long and short answer is no. Um, that it would not die. Yes, a marriage or a relationship is null and void when the person no longer is alive.
Mhm.
Um, but the tie can remain. This is why you can actually see some persons in grief never move on.
Mhm.
Some persons, even though their spouse would have died, they move on, but the memory of how everything was done and
Yeah.
everything that's they just live on with it. And in many ways, they move on with someone else and torment the other person with the memory. And that can be problematic as well. Yeah. But very good question. I love that question.
So we're on to point number three, and these are signs of an unhealthy soul tie. So, number three is manipulation and control. If you find that the other person is manipulating you emotionally, financially, or even physically, this is a strong indicator of an unhealthy soul tie. Manipulative behaviors can include guilt tripping,
Mhm.
gaslighting,
Mhm.
and using affection or attention
That's a
as a
bargain.
bargaining tool. Right? I'll say that again. Manipulative behaviors can include guilt tripping, gaslighting, and using affection or attention as a bargaining tool.
Yeah. So this particular point is a good question to ask. Am I married to a narcissist? And everything that all those attributes that you just gave there are also very much present within narcissistic behavior. And those are things you want to ensure. If you are not married and you're seeing these things coming up, check it, because I would say pump your brakes, because that's not something you want to have for a long period of time. It will only get worse. Narcissism, if not dealt with correctly, can only worsen over time if not
Yeah.
kept in check. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a serious one. Manipulation and control, that is problematic. Yeah.
So we're on to
Point number 4.
point number four, isolation from other relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Isolation from other relationships. An unhealthy soul tie often leads to isolation from friends and family. The person you're tied to may discourage or forbid you from spending time with others, effectively cutting you off from your support network and making you more dependent on
Yeah.
them.
This ties in so well with
Something
um
we would have
uh,
discussed, and this was one of the points that
mhm.
we would have raised inside of it. I can't remember
But
what
even
it was.
even it connects with point number 2, loss of personal identity.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about part of who you are, what makes up who you are is your social network that
Mm-hmm.
was existent before
Yeah.
you both got together. And the mere fact that um, that this new relationship or an old relationship, if well, in this case it would be a new one, is now forcefully changing um, those connections. And when I say connections, your circle, your support circle,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily all your friends, and you want to go out and line with it. Not that you just want to line with the boys, and it's just with the boys, and you don't want to spend time. We're not talking about that. your support system that is inherently part of the fabric of who you are. I remember in the early parts of our relationship and marriage, um, that was a part of the discussions that we were having a circle, a group of support that each one must have.
Mm-hmm.
Having those persons within your corner that really can speak truth to you and help you along the way, because your personal development still has to continue. You can't abandon that because
Yeah.
you put a ring on your finger and you said, I do. You have to still continue that, because the things that you're not dealing with on your own will become very evident
Mm-hmm.
within the context of your
Mm-hmm.
marriage. Um, the things that are burdening your individuality will become a burden on your marriage.
Yeah.
So self work still has to continue,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and in order for that to happen, it can't be you're going to now burden your spouse to help you fix it. You
Yeah.
still have to do that with the
Mm-hmm.
help of your support system.
Correct.
Yes, your spouse will be part of your support system and play a major role in it, but the things that you your friends might be able to tell you, your close friends might be able to tell you, um, without feeling any measure of backlash that you might present with that your spouse may get. Your friends don't necessarily have to go through that. Say they can tell you the truth and spend a few days away, but the fact is that you heard the truth and you're now able to say, well, Sherry really tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne really say so, so,
Mm-hmm.
so. So
Mm-hmm.
you can actually um, say thank you, Lord, for your
Yeah.
support system,
Mm-hmm.
and to be in a relationship that is given to manipulation and control
Yeah.
and cutting off your support system, that will become problematic. It
Mm.
literally says that that relationship is not allowing you to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. So we're on to point number 5.
Mm-hmm.
Constant drama and emotional turmoil, which relationships with unhealthy soul ties,
Will give you.
yes, that's all you'll get, right? Whether it's constant arguments, whether it's emotional outbursts, or an endless cycle of breaking up and making up, breaking up and making up. The emotional climate is rarely stable or nurturing.
Mhm.
That's constant drama and emotional turmoil.
And I like that. As you were saying that, one of the things I want us to, for those of us who are thinking this thing through, and probably you are in a situation like that and it feels unhealthy, and you are at a point, a crossroad where you need to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Do a table or scan the span of your relationship, the life of your relationship, and begin to ask yourself this question and give it percentage. How much, in terms of percentage, do you have peace and stability as opposed to drama and turmoil, right? And look at the percentage to see what this relationship is giving.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because if it has more drama and turmoil, then you have some work to do, or
Mm-hmm.
you do have a decision to make,
Yeah.
right? Um, and then from the time you begin to look at the balance between, when I say the balance, I'm not meaning that it's supposed to be 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not what it's supposed to be. You should have more peace and growing peace and stability in your relationship.
Yeah.
The drama and turmoil should be reducing over time. If you find it's not reducing and it's actually increasing, or it's stayed steady, that is still a problem. You want to be decreasing the drama, decreasing the turmoil,
Mm-hmm.
and sorting out issues. It actually says that you are sorting out issues within the
Yeah.
relationship. If that is not happening, then it's also a clear sign that
Mm-hmm.
you do have an
Yeah.
unhealthy soul tie
Mm-hmm.
or habit being created. Because that's what it is. A soul tie ends up is really a habit that's formed, right? So these things make up the attributes of the soul tie. Turmoil and drama, they make up part of the attributes of the soul tie. So if that was the habit of the relationship, and sometimes people do get do find some measure of attachment to these things. Um, you've ever seen a relationship where somebody in a relationship just don't feel happy unless they had an argument?
Yeah.
Just before we came on the air, there was some social media post that you were telling me about, um, in terms of without something good sex or something like that, it always comes after great arguments, something like that. And that actually becomes the nature of some people's
Yeah.
relationships, where they think that's how it's supposed to
Hmm.
be. Um, that is toxic. That's
Because
a
they
toxic practice.
they say they tend to enjoy it more when
And
they have
that could
argument.
lead to all kind of craziness, violence, and all kind of nonsense.
So I jokingly said, I jokingly, we always make jokes with each other, right? I said, well, baby, let's pretend to have argument. Because if these people say it would.
No, that's real nonsense. That is real nonsense. But the truth is that there are relationships that are built like that. They don't
Mhm.
feel comfortable until they've had an argument. And that is the thing that ignites their passion. But that leads down a very dangerous road
Yeah.
where things can get out of hand because it now has become the habit of the
Hmm.
relationship. That's why you'd hear some abusive relationships. One of the partners says, "Well, he does it because he loves me."
Yeah.
That's some bent up stuff. You don't want to get to that point. Look at the habits that you're creating and look at it
Hmm.
realistically. You don't want to think, well, wait until years down the road and you left that habit and it's now harder to break because it's been going on for so long.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a reality. Have an argument so that you can have good makeup sex. That's some toxic stuff.
So we're on to
Point number
point number
6.
6. Physical or emotional abuse. Physical or emotional abuse. Any form of abuse, whether it be physical,
Mhm.
emotional, or psychological, is a glaring sign of an unhealthy soul tie. Abuse is never acceptable in any relationship,
Mhm.
any form of abuse. And it is a clear indicator that the relationship is not only unhealthy,
But
but also
mhm.
dangerous. Also dangerous. So no form of abuse, no form of any bad thing in any relationship is good.
Mhm.
No, we need to work on those things.
True. Yeah. So that's quite self explanatory. Yeah.
Hmm.
No abuse. Don't accept no abuse. Don't give no abuse. Um, whether you're the abuser
Don't
or the
scramble up.
abusee,
Don't scramble up the man.
or
Don't
don't
do that.
scramble up the woman,
No.
that's not your child. So it's best all you go separate ways. Don't do that. Just don't. Don't. Yeah. And if you are, stop it.
Mhm.
Jesus will get you. So will the police. Yeah.
So point number 7, obsessive thoughts.
Mhm.
If you find that you're constantly thinking about the other person to the point where it interferes with your daily activities or mental well-being, this could be why are you laughing? This could be a sign of an unhealthy soul tie. This is a very serious point. What is wrong with you? So let me just start over because Lyndon has me laughing in the midst of a
Why are you
very.
laughing?
Is you laughing?
No.
That's why.
we hitting a point here, man. Let's go ahead. Or you want me read this point? See that you're laughing. You're laughing uncontrollably. Obsessive thoughts. If you find that you're constantly thinking about the other person to the point where it interferes with your daily activities
Mhm.
or mental well-being, you get total bay, right? This could be a sign of an unhealthy soul tie. Obsessive thoughts can also manifest as extreme jealousy
Mhm.
or possessiveness. Yeah. So let me ask this question. I'm
Mhm.
not saying this is good or bad. I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I'm asking your expertise and your counsel. Ladies, if it is, if it is now, I saw this on a video um
Mhm.
just when this week
Mhm.
with Sheena and her husband
Yeah.
when she'd call him 10 times a day. She'd call him 10 times a day. And she asked him, do you see a problem with it? He says no. Um, so you don't mind the thought of her. She was asking him, so you don't mind the thought of me checking in with you every few hours to see how you're doing? He said, no, I don't mind. She said, but would you do it? He said, no.
Like, I don't need to know what you're
I
doing.
he's busy, he's doing stuff.
Mhm.
But that translates into some people's minds because they're not doing that.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about you, they no longer love you.
Yeah.
That people begin to tell themselves,
Mhm.
well, he's probably thinking about somebody
Mhm.
else. And we were talking about that, I think, on Saturday with Dwayne.
Mhm.
Um, when uh, something you asked him, and he said, huh? And we were talking about that same analogy when it comes to couples. How she's saying she's accusing him of doing one thing,
Mhm.
and for him he's there sitting down spinning a pen. And
Yeah.
wondering if how many times the pen
Mhm.
would spin.
We tend to see a lot of memes with that.
Yes, because it's true.
Mhm.
Um, how much is too obsessive?
Mm.
And do we realistically think some of these things through?
Mm.
Many a times we superimpose these things into our relationships,
Yeah.
and those things actually are manipulative or controlling behaviors
Mm.
that we want to begin to pull back on, that we're not forcing our spouses to feel imprisoned by trying to develop this habit of quote unquote checking in.
Yeah.
Many a times these things tell to insecurities that people have.
Mhm.
And because you want to keep the person in check, they're supposed to be home 5 minutes after, or it takes you this amount of time to get from work to home, where the
Mhm.
next 5 minutes went, and that kind of
Mhm.
crazy stuff that people tend to do. Why it took you so long? How come you didn't call when and say I was going to be 2 minutes
Mhm.
late? Those kind of things are
I
very
remember. I
weird.
remember. Looking at a story
Hmm.
this week, and the person was sharing their a survivor,
Hmm.
right, of abuse,
Yeah.
and it was so bad that she had this job. I won't go into much details, but she had this particular job, and she can't leave
Hmm.
until her relief comes, right? And she had this partner who was very, very he was insecure,
Hmm.
possessive,
Hmm.
very abusive, and she said she came home. When she came home, he started questioning her, asking her, um, where she was, why did she didn't call to say that she working late, and he didn't believe her. And they ended up getting into a fight, and he started chopping her,
Hmm.
and he chopped off her arm.
This was the same interview
Yeah.
on
Mhm.
CNC3. For
Mhm.
those of you who might have seen it,
Mhm.
or you glanced it
Mhm.
and you weren't sure, yes, that's his story. she's talking about.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Because even when she was sitting, I didn't even notice that she was missing.
And
And I was like, where the arm missing? So when I watched, I was like, oh, and then she's so strong now and she's able to talk about this.
mhm,
But what I'm saying is, not a lot of us will be so fortunate to come out of that
mhm,
alive.
yeah,
So from the moment you recognize it, leave.
yeah,
Because don't ever believe that um it will get better. Um and we'll say that you're married and marriage is for better or for worse. Till that do us part. Yeah, you will die before your time. You will die before your time. Yeah, I said it. You will die before your time. Don't stay in it. Because from the moment it happened,
mhm.
it happened once, it is going to happen again.
True,
And
true.
it will just get worse and worse each time. So from the moment you recognize signs of an unhealthy soul tie that could end up leading to those things,
Hmm.
you need to know what to do. Yeah, and this is why we are here to help you, to give you all the advice necessary, well, that we could give. And yeah, as we said earlier, if it is that you have questions, feel free to send us your questions. Yeah. Even if it is you have something that you can't talk to us about here now, there's an email address that you can send your questions to. Just let us know. We'll send you the email address and we'll go from there. And yeah, in case you just joined us, we're this is Marriage Mentors and we're discussing the topic soul ties. And right now we're pointing out ways to recognize unhealthy soul ties. Yeah. So we're on to this is what point
Question number 8.
no point number 8.
Yeah, point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
point number 8.
but before we do that,
Mm-hmm.
we have some comments here. Um, Denise is saying, "Yeah, don't get dotish and total be over anybody." Very true.
Exactly.
Funny, but very true.
Mm-hmm.
Keep like I was encouraging someone last week, and I would say it. When you are getting into emotional things, make sure your brain goes along with your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Don't leave your brain home.
Mm-hmm.
Carry it with you. Think it through, please, and ensure that you respond accordingly.
Mm.
Yo, good evening to you. She says, good evening, Lyndon and Donna, tuned in and enjoying this session.
Shanice, good evening to you.
Rose, good evening. Denise in San Fernando, good evening to you. Um, Joan Luces, Miss Joan
Mm-hmm.
Luces saying hi, greetings to you both. You can a link for the program. You can watch it live on the website. Just type up sky995fm.com and watch online. Yeah, you can do it there.
And if not, if it is you're getting issues on the site, the segment will be
It will be
uploaded.
uploaded
Yeah, so
on
just
YouTube.
just give us
A couple days.
probably by tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're
Or Saturday
pushing. We're
morning.
pushing for tomorrow, Saturday.
Yeah. So you can review it if you missed anything um
Mhm.
that you wanted to hear over again. Yeah,
And while he is going through the messages, want to encourage you to continue to send in your messages via WhatsApp 333-9950. That's 333-9950. Or you can give us a call 624-7729 or 625-2759.
all right. We have a message here. I won't say who it is, but they said, "Good night. I'm in a toxic relationship." All right. you had any particular questions that you wanted to ask us. For you, I will not mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. Feel free if you'd like to ask questions and stuff like that, based on what you've heard so far. Um, it might be helpful to someone else who might be going through a similar situation as yourself. Naomi says to you, Ma, tomorrow is Friday and not Saturday. She's probably thinking, will it be so close to uploading? I don't
Yeah,
know.
we said by tomorrow, Friday.
Around
Or
this time? Yeah.
yeah.
It should be uploaded.
Yeah, or Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Because most times we have it there and it's just it slips our mind to upload it because
Last time that happened.
we have many other things happening at once.
But yes, we'll try to get it
Yes.
uploaded by
Mhm.
tomorrow evening around this time.
I think we'll have to set reminders
Yeah.
to do those
Systems,
things.
systems,
Mhm,
systems.
mhm.
They work well. Yeah. So we looked at so far. Let me just review some of the points.
Yeah, just recap.
Um,
Because I was going to do it at the end of that list,
so
which we just have like about 2 points in that list again.
yeah, right. So we're looking at what are some of the signs of
Mm-hmm.
an unhealthy soul tie. We've been going through that for the past few minutes. Emotional dependency, loss of personal identity. When that begins to happen, it's an unhealthy soul tie. When there is manipulation and control present,
Mm-hmm.
that is a clear sign that it's an unhealthy soul tie. Four was isolation from other relationships, from your support groups. If you find that a relationship is causing that to happen, disconnecting you from your family, your really good, and I say good friends, because yes, sometimes we have bad friends, but if it is I'm talking about good friends that actually help keep you on track, yes, then it's a clear sign that it's an unhealthy relationship, an unhealthy soul tie. Five, constant drama and emotional turmoil, clear sign. Physical or emotional abuse, that's an absolute no-no. And if it's
Mm-hmm.
happening, it's an unhealthy soul tie. Obsessive thoughts, we had a good laugh about that, but it's true. Um, if that is happening, and it can really get obsessive in some cases. Um, know that that's an unhealthy practice and is also becoming a soul tie. So we're on to point number 8.
Point here.
I don't know why I keep saying question.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Point number 8.
Right. So, point number 8, neglected self-care, which ties in with the previous points as well. In an unhealthy soul tie, you may neglect your own needs and well-being to please the other person. This can include neglecting your health, abandoning your hobbies, or even sacrificing your own happiness and emotional well-being.
Let's talk about this
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let's talk about this a bit because this is we've seen many marriages where that has become the norm. You ever seen marriages where and it can happen to both parties at the same time,
Yeah.
or maybe at different stages, but it happens to both of them,
Mm-hmm.
where you see they get married and they just let themselves go, right? And that's become an unhealthy practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're married. Nobody says that because you're married, things can't you can't have an unhealthy soul tie. An unhealthy soul tie, and you have to get to the point of what's causing you to let yourself go. We spoke a few weeks ago, I think on a Thursday, but it wasn't marriage mentors in terms of doing particular things
Mm-hmm.
to keep your spouse or something interested, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
something that to that nature in terms of you continue doing up your hair, your
Yeah.
exercise, keep yourself in a order.
Mm-hmm.
um, do not begin to neglect yourself. That I would place to under the scope or the purview of personal identity.
Yeah.
Don't give up your hobbies. Yes, those hobbies are part of who you are. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about that a while ago. It's part of your personal identity. So having hobbies is something that you should do it. Not because you got married, it changed the things that you just like doing as an
Yeah.
individual. Um, I've always loved dancing, not because my wife isn't hasn't been a dancer. I would not like dancing anymore. I still love dancing. I may not be able to do it as much, but she's kind of piquing her interest in it these days. I love Latin and ballroom, but she's not been inclined to it. But that does not mean I just totally threw away all my likeness for dancing. I literally competed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's something that I find is a very good hobby. It helped keep me in shape and stuff like that. You don't want to give up those things. It's part of who you are. Um, I love the arts, uh, but we both love the arts actually, and that those are things we can still do together. And not because your spouse isn't doing it, you say, well, whether it is you're single, you say, well, because this person don't like the arts or whatever you are interested in, your hobbies, it's not something you all have in common,
Mm-hmm.
so you just write off the person, or um you marry them because you have the same hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily that way either, right? You may enjoy different things, and that becomes part of how you build life together,
Yeah.
getting into each other's interests.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps with your meshing and mingling and building that psychology and purpose together. Not all the things you are able to do together may not have the same interest, but still allow the other person. That's why you still have personal identities
Mm-hmm.
and things that you like, that it's very different. What my wife looks at on social media is very different to what I look at. I like comedy. She might be interested in it. She likes more interpersonal social things, maybe from a humorous side sometimes, but she likes those things. And those are things you still allow each other the space to do and enjoy. I like action movies and tech movies. She likes romance. That doesn't mean she wouldn't watch a action movie and a tech movie with me, and I wouldn't sit and watch a romance with her and enjoy it. You can still do those things. And we both share the interest of looking at faith based movies together. So, not all the time it's the same thing. And
Sometimes it might just be more romance than action.
yeah, because.
That reminds me of another joke. Um, I'm sure you all would have seen these videos going around on social media where these couples jokingly they say the actors though they're being abused.
Mhm.
So they will say, put a finger up. Put a finger up if you're being abused, or they might highlight certain things. So I tried it with him today, not on camera. I tried it with him today because we were talking about something.
Yeah.
And I said, baby, are you being abused? I said, put a finger up if you're being abused. And it was ready for him to not put a finger up. His finger went straight up in the I see you really cannot do this challenge with me. You cannot.
But we have fun. Yes, we make jokes about some of those things, but the reality is, in the world, some people are going through some of these things, and they go through abuse in silence,
Yeah.
and that's never good, right? It's never ever good. And you want to ensure that you are working through those things, whether individually or as a couple. If it's individual, it's because you have no other choice. You're
Mm-hmm.
being abused. As a couple, where you both have an understanding now, and you all need to work through these things because you're both headed into the direction of clarifying those issues. Yeah, and getting help.
Yeah.
Getting help is important. Um, Hi, Radhika. She says, "Hi, sister and bro, enjoying the topic because it's so real. People go through so much.
Yeah.
Yes, will do. All right. So the person who said that they're in a toxic relationship, they said, I have no other male help with the physical part in terms of gardening and yard work. And he helps me, but he has been unfaithful to me. And I try to get past it, but he's friends with the individual.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. Tell us more in terms of, is it that you both started a romantic relationship, or it's just the person was helping? They just helped, and you all kind of got built a social connection. It didn't get romantic. Was it something romantic or just very platonic? Good evening. Denise is laughing. All right. Denise wants, not Denise, Rose wants clarity on obsessive thoughts. Wait, wait. She says, so thinking about painting the person on you, won't forget that what their face looks like would be considered. Yes, that's absolutely obsessive. That is absolutely obsessive. Um, Going and take a tattoo of the person's face, all of those things. Um, yeah, you could put them on your screensaver. Well, long before we had phones with all these kind of fancy stuff, we used to keep a picture in your wallet, that kind of thing. Um, like I have a video of my wife on a swing, right? And her hair blowing in the breeze and stuff like that as my lock screen. So I remember I was walking with my phone one day and somebody thought I was on a video call and they waved out to my phone screen like, hi. I'm like, no, that's just me." But what we're talking about with the obsession is doing, it's really that. Obsession is a very extreme word, right? Um, so you don't want to take things into a place that is very, it's irrational. And many a times we can fool ourselves into making something that is irrational seem very rational,
Yeah.
where um like we were giving the example before, you want the man to call you every hour on the hour, and if he ain't call you, that is irrational, especially if he's at work. That is impossible. um the thing to ask there is, am I insecure, instead of
Mm.
having him call every minute or every hour. If it is, you all touch base like ever so often, like we would have, like if I'm on the way to work, we talk and we spend time in prayer together. And or during while you were working in San Fernando, you'd call me on your lunchtime, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Okay, that's fine. But if it is, there is a day that it cannot happen, you throw a tantrum, that, check that out. Yeah, that's obsessive. That can be obsessive. Yeah. We're talking about soul ties, Sister Pet. Welcome. Seems like you just joined us, but we are talking about soul ties. We're talking about giving some points that helps us recognize
An
um,
unhealthy soul
an
tie.
unhealthy soul tie. Because yes, there are good soul ties, especially in the context of marriage, that you can build, and habits really that you are building. An unhealthy soul tie, you can look at it or simplify it in the form of an unhealthy habit. Yeah. Healthy habits or unhealthy habits are healthy or unhealthy soul ties. Yeah. Because you're doing these things that are within the fabric of psychologically in nature, emotionally in nature, many times, especially in the context of marriage, sexually in nature. So you're building particular habits. Nobody's laughing. All right. So which point we getting into?
Nine.
Point nine.
This is
Did we?
the final point for recognizing an unhealthy soul tie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, before we go on,
Mm-hmm.
the last part of point eight was, or even sacrificing your own happiness
Mm-hmm.
and emotional well-being. Um, Self-care, even in the context of your marriage, is healthy,
Mm-hmm.
right? You want to, as we can't emphasize that point enough. Um, you want to think about the kind of person that they met.
Mm-hmm.
You all met and you all were attracted to. Yes, of course, as you age, things change, but you don't want to not maintain who you are,
Yeah.
right? In some sense of the word. Age will take its toll, but you don't want to speed up the process,
Mm-hmm.
right? You begin to look like you're 95 when you're just 40 something and
That,
oh
that's
you.
a that's a stretch.
I know it's a stretch, but you I have to do it, say it in a way that really opens up people's minds to really think about
Mm-hmm.
how things look and how things are perceived.
Yeah.
Um, you you just let yourself go. Don't do those things. You want to think about um, keeping things together,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you maintain yourself. Don't let go of your health. Um, because whether or not there is children in the arrangement of life, sometimes people put everything on hold. They put their health, everything. They used to exercise and do the different things, and they now say, well, housework and taking care of the children, that's my exercise. Don't fool yourself into saying that. I
Mm-hmm.
hate to hear people say those things. Exercise is exercise. It has a measure of psychological renewal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we call particular activities recreation. If you break
Yeah.
that word apart, it's recreation, it's the
Mm-hmm.
healing of yourself. Um, and that's what exercise does. It also stretches your capacity to do and to manage life and to reset your body when it comes to stress, dealing with stress and all these different things, and keeping your body functional, slowing down the aging process. Those are things you want to still do. Don't leave yourself just to wither away because, yeah, I don't have to fight for he again, or I don't have to fight for she again. They done home, I coming home to them. No, you still need to keep things on the up and up, if we could put it that way.
Something came to my mind just now, right? Um, is it possible to have a soul tie with someone that you were never in a relationship with?
Yeah, be-
Outside of
because
family,
be-
outside of friends. It's just let's say for example, I admire someone,
mhm.
right? Um, you just keep looking at this person over and over, and then, well, obviously you start to become obsessed with the
Right.
person.
Well,
I'm
that's
not
what we'll
saying
put
that
it.
I am, eh?
We'll call that an obsession
Mm,
because it can move. You might have, let's say it's a movie star.
mhm,
You look at their shows and well, you find this person, this, let's say it's a male actor, and you find this person's really handsome. You love the way that they act. Probably, um, ooh, they have so much muscles and all of that kind of
muscles.
stuff. And it moves from the place of admiration
Mm-hmm.
and to very soulish, deep things to a crush, and from a crush to an obsession, and so on and so forth. So it graduates. We have to
So
look at it.
you wouldn't class it as a soul tie
It
just
it
yet.
can become a soul tie, or it essentially is a soul tie if we look at a soul tie as a habit, because you've
Mm-hmm.
now created a habit
Mm-hmm.
from the point of admiration, which was just, oh, I saw this person and I
Mm-hmm.
admired them, and now you're now moving. That is now moving habitually
Mm-hmm.
from the place of admiration
Yeah.
to a crush.
Mm-hmm.
There is some measure of emotional
Mm-hmm.
attachment, psychological attachment. So essentially, it is a soul tie. And from the time that graduates even further from the crush into an obsession, then that's a full blown soul tie. It doesn't have to be, because just as we can sit and imagine we're being married to someone and we was never in a relationship with the person.
That's kind of sick though.
It is kind of sick,
It's sick.
but you begin to see life with the person, what it would be like, and you're just painting a picture and a whole movie in your head, and you've walked the road emotionally. We've talked about those things, the ability of the human mind and heart to walk ahead of reality. That is some serious things, serious things. So therefore, it is very much possible to have a soul tie to someone
Mm-hmm.
they don't know you, but you see them,
Mm-hmm.
and you make a world in your own mind, a world of habits. Some people, they go home, they single, but they go home and they envision themselves with somebody, some movie star somewhere that have no clue, a footballer or something that they find that tickles their fancy. Yeah. So it's very much possible.
See, I asked the question for you all.
Denise says self-respect is so very important.
Mm-hmm. It
Very
is.
true.
It
Very
is.
true.
It is.
Especially when it comes to abuse,
Mm-hmm.
and also taking care of yourself, self-care, doing that, um, working on your self-esteem, dealing with your insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things you want to be constantly working out. Many a times we leave those things as we rest them down, we never deal with them, and they rear their faces, they rear their ugly heads at different points and masquerade as something else. Because you can end up accusing someone of not loving you the way that you need to be loved, or you find you should be loved because you're not dealing with your own insecurities. That will help cover what you're not making up on your own, right? So you don't want to find yourself at a loss, because that's what an insecurity is.
Yeah.
It's a lack of security,
Hmm.
right? So you want to make sure that you build up those areas that you have no security in. It's like you you have a house,
Mm-hmm.
and you put a burglar proof in by all the windows, but the front door and the back door have no burglar proofing, and you just leave the door unlocked. That's an issue of security there, right? The door done frail already and kind of breaking up the front, right? So if those are things, but you have a sense of safety in, well, I just leave the light on, and people must know that when the light on,
Mm-hmm.
they cannot just come in somebody's house because somebody home. So the day you forget, so all of these things you rationalize in your own mind. That's an insecurity. You rationalize in your own mind that a thief will not come in because the light on. Now we could see how absurd that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thief already scope out, will it have no burglar proof in
Yeah.
there by the front door and the back door, so there's an easy point of entry. So those are things that that's how an insecurity works. you you bypass the fault that lies within, or the error, the shortcoming that lies within, and you superimpose the inability, or you expect someone else to make up for that,
Yeah.
to ensure that you are quote unquote safe. Deal with the insecurities from within. Ensure that there is the burglar proofing on all the windows and the doors, and that in the event of a fire, you can get out, so that everything is looked at properly from your own end, and that you're not forcing someone else to cover those things. Yeah. Right. All right. Point 9.
Point nine.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That's the inability
Yes.
to envision a future without them.
Mm-hmm.
That's some serious stuff there too.
One of the most subtle yet telling signs is the inability to imagine your life without the other person. Even if you're aware that the relationship is damaging,
Mm-hmm.
this emotional entanglement makes it difficult to take steps toward breaking unhealthy soul ties.
Now I can put this into so many different ways. When I first heard it, it just shot my mind back to in a previous relationship of mine,
Mm-hmm.
where it was just at that point when I said to myself,
Self?
Lord, yes, I said to myself, Lyndon, and myself said, hmm? And I said to the Lord, Lord, I can't see life in the future without this person.
Mm-hmm.
That was when the Lord told me end the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of makes sense, eh? Um,
Because he had me. He had me there, but he just needed to prepare you for me.
yeah, he needed. Well, I'm glad he prepared me. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. Mm, with thanksgiving, hallelujah.
Yeah, people laughing.
But yes, it was at that point I saw Denise applauding. I saw myself not being able to function without the person. And in many ways, I understand why the Lord said no,
Yeah.
because even your spouse cannot become your God
Mm-hmm.
in any way, form, or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they are meant to walk alongside you, but not become the full scope of your gaze. You build in sight of each other,
Mm-hmm.
but not fill your gaze. Because at any point um, that things go sour, it
Mhm.
must not destabilize who you are.
Yeah.
That's something that happened in the Garden of Eden. Eve went off course,
Mm-hmm.
and the man collapsed right along with her.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't stay on course. God gave him the instruction. Let's look at
Yeah.
that. God gave him the instruction, and he fell right down with it. But at what cost? Everything collapsed because of his choice. Many a times um, we see sometimes because one party in a relationship is they are faltering, the other one begins to falter along with them, or blame
Mm-hmm.
their faltering for their own condition.
Yeah.
That should never be the
Mm-hmm.
case.
Mm-hmm. True.
Ensure that you remain stable.
Mm-hmm.
Do what is right.
Yeah.
Always do what is right. And if you find yourself in a relationship where it's causing you to slide down
Mm-hmm.
into utter chaos and every form of evil, then clearly that is an unhealthy soul tie.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. Always look at those things. Don't let them come and tell you, well, we partners for life, ride or die, and all this kind of
Mm-hmm.
foolishness. For what? Do what is right. That's what
Yeah.
your partner's
Yeah.
for.
Mm-hmm.
Do what is right. Do what is correct. Uplift each other. If that's why it says in Malachi, how can two walk together lest they agree?
Agree. Mm-hmm.
That's a scripture that's always used in marriages,
Mm-hmm.
right? Agree on what? What are you agreeing on?
Mm-hmm.
And not because, okay, well, for some wives, they may say, well, he just living his life anyhow, anyhow. That don't mean you meet his anyhow life with anyhow behavior.
Mm-hmm.
There is still a requirement on you to keep it together.
Yeah.
Keep your things in terms of your choices together, because
Mm-hmm.
God is still looking at
Mm-hmm.
you. And for husbands, you have a wife that she doing whatever she want to do. You do continue to do what is right.
Yeah.
Don't let their wrongdoings lead you down a path that you should not be
Mm-hmm.
going. And then it's easy for us to say, it's you who caused me to do this.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for you, I would not do this and that, 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 that. You know how we like to go down them kind of roads, right? You know how we love to go down those roads. But it's important that we we ensure that we do what is right,
Yeah.
whether together or alone. That's the bottom line. Thank you so much for the clarification that it's Amos 3. Yes, that's correct. It is. Yeah. So it's not Malachi, it's Amos 3 3. Um, I'm always wondering why I'm laughing. So, yes, it is. It is. It is. So, the inability to envision a future without them, ensure that you're still looking at those things correctly through the right set of eyes, um, that those things aren't damaging,
Mm-hmm.
that the emotional connection that you have, the emotional entanglement, as it says,
Yeah.
it doesn't make it difficult to take steps forward,
Mm-hmm.
right? Toward breaking that. You can do that. If the need be, you continue to stay on track.
Yeah.
Don't let an unhealthy soul tie stop you from doing what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you need to do. Keep doing what is right. So many times you see people they're destabilizing all of their relationships. And when I say all, not just their marriage, but every friendship, every single thing. Their spiritual life is destabilized and they turn around and blame it on. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. Make sure it stays healthy.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's now time for your marriage devotion inside Marriage Mentors with Mr. and Mrs. Mahon. And this one is all things are difficult before they are easy.
Mhm.
All things are difficult before they are easy. Convenience is not a popular word today. It has become something we expect out of life. Convenience, however, is a word that should be applied to things, not people. We may have modern conveniences such as microwave ovens, no frost refrigerators, and supersonic airplanes. We may even have convenience stores, but we should never have a convenient friend or co-worker or spouse.
Mhm.
And never should we value a relationship only because it is convenient. When things get tough, the first things to go are the conveniences in life. Things may be disposable, but relationships should never be. A man once overheard a young couple rehearsing wedding vows they had composed themselves. They pledged to stay with you for as long as I love you. The man asked them after the rehearsal, how long do you think that will be? Neither of them had an answer. Convenience says, I'll stand by you. If it suits my schedule, fits in with my current priorities, or seems to suit my mood at the moment. But commitment, in contrast to convenience, proclaims, I'll be with you through thick and thin. I'll be there when you need me, in spite of my schedule, agenda, or emotions. James 1:12 says, blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. So remember, all things are difficult before they are easy. All things are difficult before they are easy. And that was your marriage devotion for this evening inside Marriage Mentors with Mr. and Mrs. Mahon. And we're looking at the topic
Soul
soul
ties.
ties. Soul ties. I think we have to do a part two. I think
You
because it
think so?
makes no sense jumping into points on how to break the unhealthy soul tie,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot we need to get into. So we'll continue to take your voice notes if you have any questions. I saw um a couple voice notes came in just now.
Before we get into the voice note, I
Mm-hmm.
do have, what you just said, some things difficult before they could become easy
Mm-hmm.
inside of the devotion. Every marriage, or most marriages, not, let me not say every marriage, some marriages are quite fortunate to not have to go through what what I like to call the teething phase.
Yeah.
Some marriages, um, but most do.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there is a large percentage of marriages that never make it through the teething phase. They
Mm-hmm.
actually end in divorce
Mm-hmm.
before that
Yeah.
time is over. And it's like you buy a new shoe, and the shoe, the whether it's a leather shoe or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
the shoe begins
Yeah.
first by feeling uncomfortable, no matter how much you
Mm-hmm.
try on the shoe in the store, you walk around, you pose in front of the mirror. When you start wearing the shoe for a few hours and the leather starts to really press on that toe, or maybe your
Why?
barnyard or your baby toe, it bend it in so, and you have nails that are cut and one digging into the other. All that drama starts to happen inside of that shoe. That's like a marriage.
Yeah.
It goes through a phase where it needs to, what we say, at a break in the shoe,
Mm-hmm.
that teething phase. Some people never survive it. And I remember for us, it was a kind of a turbulent one.
Kind.
It was a kind of a turbulent one. But thank God, um, we were able to get through, and we were able to work through those things. It,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a walk in the park, it wasn't easy, but we needed to work through those things. And I
Yeah.
would say, yes, it's much better, way better now. It's easier now.
Mm-hmm.
How we deal with
Yeah.
particular things, how we deal with misunderstandings
Mm-hmm.
and conflict and all of these things. There's no big rah-rah that might have happened before. Um, it's dealt with quite subtly, and in some very much easier ways that allows for quicker healing times and
Yeah.
coming back to normal. Those are things you have to work through and build. Those are actual good practices within your soul tie. So your marriage, if you look at your marriage, it is a soul tie.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to ensure that you're building correct habits within those things.
Yeah.
And the teething phase is like, see me and come live with me.
Mm-hmm.
You have to live through the come live with me. You have to work through that. It's not an easy, flowery walk in the park, rose petals kind of things. It has a lot of thorns with it. Yeah. And you have to be willing to work through that time period. Um, but unfortunately, some persons, they're so impetuous, they so full of themselves, and those are some of the issues really that causes it to fall apart, because nobody willing to learn,
Mm.
and yeah, end up in a situation with two man rat in the same hole,
Yeah.
and they just rah, 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 and you see this thing,
Mm.
I guess I go my way, and that essentially is the end of Solomon Grundy, right? So work through that teething phase. Yeah, we have a voice note and we have a call. Let's take the call. Hello, you're live in the air.
Hi, night, night.
I know, go and play a voice note.
Oh boy, how you all doing?
We're doing
Doing
good.
good.
One of the things, one of the things that I wanted to put a stake on
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
with couples, married couples. Does it have to be a note? How should I put it? Yes, there would be little hiccups,
Mhm.
but doesn't have to be a rah-rah. If each other would speak in love, would try to explain themselves in love, it doesn't have to be no row, big
Mhm.
row. Even though there are a disagreement, but you have to use wisdom in speaking
Mm-hmm.
with your spouse or your partner,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. You have to know how to speak. Now, another thing is both parties have to maintain a respect.
Mhm.
Don't ever lose respect for one another.
Yeah.
You have to maintain that, right? It all boils down to again knowing your purpose, knowing who you are in Christ, and in order for your marriage to go smooth.
Mhm.
It don't have to be at the edge where you could fall off or almost fall off or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
You have to maintain that, respect one another, you speak to one another, you correct one another in love,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
So that's my thing.
Beautiful. This was the same point you raised in your voice note, was it? I
Ah,
just asking. I just asking.
no, not really, not
All
really.
right.
So play.
All right.
Okay.
But good comments. Good comments. Um, even as you were saying that, it is something that it's not inherent. It's not second nature to everybody. And that's something that some couples have to build. Maybe
Yeah.
you grew up in a very turbulent environment where you saw mommy and daddy arguing. So that's what you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order for that to become the habit of your own marriage, you don't just have that just so. You have to work and build that up.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you now have to make a habit within your marriage as part of the soul tie.
Yeah.
Yeah? Let's get her voice note.
Good night, Minister Lynden and Adana Mahon. You are so correct. You are so correct. You are a mentor to many. Thank you.
That's why she said to play.
All right. Hi, Susanna. She said she fell asleep and not too long got up and remembered the program. The heat of the weather. That's why she felt tired and went to lay down. Yeah, sometimes you want to take a five and it end up to a 25. It's true. But yes, if you miss certain parts and you want to review it and recap it, we will be uploading the video tomorrow. Yeah. So you can have a look at what you would have missed and come up to speed. Um, uh, let's see. Denise from QREP is saying group dynamics forming, storming, norming, performing applies to marriages too. It's true. Those are things, yeah, you have to go through some things. Um, but you have to put in the work.
Yeah,
You do have to put
you
in the
do.
work. Um, Many of us did not come from very nice, stable, buttery, sweet environments. Some of us grew up in different environments, or
Mm-hmm.
socialization might have been different. So, therefore, I always encourage couples know the what I like to call the culture that you want in your marriage culture. Think about that. And we did that as a topic some
Mm-hmm.
time ago. Um, Sit and talk about that because that becomes the reference point when you deviate during the marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the thing that helps you come back on course. You know, okay, well, when things begin to fall apart, you sit as a couple and say, well, this really is against what we agreed to build. Let's get back on course. Let's come back. You know, all right, things that's not in sync with where we're going as a couple. let's come back on course. So work through those things, think about those dynamics, the norms that you're building, the things that you're going to be doing. Those are important. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's no problem, Vernell. That's no problem. That's not a problem. Just let us know when you all are ready.
Hi, Brother Lynden, my lady.
Hi.
Thank you so much for this program. But there was a man who went to God and he said, God, you see this cross that you give me?
Mm-hmm.
It is too heavy. Would you please exchange it? And God said, put it here and go into that warehouse and choose one and bring it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll change it for you. The man spent all day, all night. And he came back to God and he said, God, I ain't seen nothing that suit me. It's either too heavy and they heavier than this one. So I think I'll take the one that he gave me. And God say, okay, you can have it.
Mm-hmm.
And he left. The moral of that story, when you think that your problem is heavy,
Mm-hmm.
it's too large, or you cannot bear with it,
Mm-hmm.
there are some people problem is so much
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
that you certainly don't need
Mm.
to be in their shoe.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brother Lyndon, I am really happy about what I heard.
Yeah.
It's a learning, it's a lesson that I learned. Some of those things I've never heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
And after 47 years in a relationship,
Mhm.
from age 17,
Mm-hmm.
and I can say, I think I'm going to keep the cross that I have because I
Mhm.
cannot relate to any of those
Mm.
situations.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Thanks be to God.
Wow.
Travel safe. A great program, very informative. I'm still locked on and listening, but it's very impressive and very, 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 I have learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Travel safe.
You're most welcome. And we're glad to hear that because life life has a funny way about it that we live, and it doesn't matter what stage that we're at, we learn.
Yeah.
Um, and it would be rather unfair. We do ourselves an injustice at any
Mhm.
point in life that we reach and we think that we reach
Mhm.
and we lose an opportunity to learn something new. And it's easy to do that, particularly with God,
Mm.
especially. It's easy to do that. Um, Life is all about learning. It is all about learning. Um, our relationship with God is a long walk of learning who He is, His nature, His ways, His character, and how He sees and how we ought to see
Yeah.
ourselves. That's what the Bible teaches us, how to see God and how to see ourselves and how to relate to God. So I appreciate we appreciate your comments and your commendation, Miss Nola, um, and also all of you who find the program helpful in some way or form. Um, it's an encouragement to us
Yeah.
that we did something right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that we did something right. Not that we feel downcast that we're not doing anything right, that we can say, okay, yes, we this was helpful. This was helpful. Um, but it's not just helpful to you, it's helpful to us.
Yeah,
Because
that's.
these are things that this topic, particular topic, came out of a discussion we were having on Sunday.
Mm.
Yeah, on Sunday. And she said, there's a good topic for us to really do. I say, all right, yeah, no problem, let's do it. Not knowing how much impact it may have had on any one person or the other. But we are glad that it helps somebody in some way. Um, these particular topics, I know they are taught most times from a certain point of view, um, and only from a sexual point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But today we saw that it went even further than sex,
Yeah.
right? Um, I remember when we were young, we were teenagers and stuff like that, and we were taught about soul ties. What they did was take glue stick,
Mm-hmm.
two sheets of paper, stick it together, let it dry, and then try to tear it apart. What they said to us is that when you leave with piece of the person and they leave with piece of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the representation. And today, while we were just about to bathe, I was looking out the bathroom window, and that memory came back to my mind. And um and I said to myself, it's so much more than just you leaving with piece of the person and they leaving with piece of you, but you're still tied together. You are still connected to that person in so many different ways. You
Mm-hmm.
now have, and we were looking at, I was describing to my wife the strength of the psychological bond that we have. Olia, maybe at one point we can do a program like that to show you how deep, how strong, how potent the psychological connection between a husband and wife is. It's not just about the the sex or anything like that. The psychological connection between husband and wife. And when you intentionally build that, it's a force to be reckoned with, because it's something that you can live to enjoy for years.
Yeah.
But if it is you play with it, it can be, and you decide, well, here's what, I'll move on. You play with it and you decide to move on. You realize, hey, I'm still connected to this person in some way, form, or fashion. For for those of you that are into cartoons, um, I remember Anne Marie always loved this particular cartoon, Hotel Transylvania. And there's a concept inside of that where two the two persons fell in love in the cartoon, and they said they zinged. That was the thing.
Yeah.
The zing that you have is that start of a psychological connection. But the more you practice that, the stronger it becomes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like faith. It's similar to faith. And the more you work at it, because you're building now habits around that
Mm-hmm.
connection, you're building emotions around that connection. You're building so many things. So when you decide, okay, well, I'm no longer emotionally attached, I'm no longer physically attached, and I move on, there is another layer of that connection that you still have to be aware of, that you want to ensure that is totally over and done with. This is why it's problematic to have multiple sexual partners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You do that over and over, and you tie yourselves to so many people. You decide, all right, well, it's now time to settle down. Your marriage is not a marriage, it will be an orgy. That's what it will be essentially, because what you've done is brought yourself along with a host of whoever else comes along with you. It may not be physically, but every experience,
Mm-hmm.
every memory, all of those things. And I say memory because the insecurities, all of those things are representative of somebody in the past, whether sexual partner or non-sexual partner, whether it's family member, a pet, or something that you have some attachment to that you've now brought into this particular relationship. So this is why you've got to be careful how you build. How you build. You can see actually there are some things, some ties that have never been given up, but they've been brought into a marriage. And a lot of the times you see those things flaring up in marriages. The marriage is three people, the husband, the wife, and somebody mother.
Oh.
And you wonder, but wait, they never really leave. So those are things you want to be ensuring that you're dealing with, you're looking at holistically and unraveling those things, making sure that there is this clear separation. I remember the first while in my dreams, and I was telling my wife this, it bothered me. It bothered me that I would have a dream and my wife wasn't in my dreams as my wife. Whether she did not pay any dream at all or she was in a dream but she wasn't my wife. It would bother me. Like real bother me. And I said to myself, I say, Lord, this cannot be so, I married her so much. She has to be, she has to appear in my dreams as my wife too. But I no longer have any dreams that she's not my wife. Jesus fixed it. He fixed it. He fixed it. Yeah. We have another voice note.
Brother Lynden, that is written because I don't want to read it out loud, but this is for this particular sky frequency. Brother Lynden, all day, I'm not complaining, but I believe that program is not informative at all. From early morning until late evening, thank God for you and my lady to bring some life and some information on that program. I'm very disappointed in Sky because the programs have no information at all whatsoever. If ever they do, it's nothing impressive.
I'll listen to it. I'll listen to it in more detail. And I appreciate your feedback. I do. Not everybody's style is the same, and there is a reason why we do what we do and how we do it. It's very different. It's going to be very different. Um, I'll say that much. Not everyone will have the same style and delivery as we would have. Not everyone, but we're all part of the same team still. And that's what makes up Sky. Yeah. So with that said, I will listen to your voice note privately, and we'll talk more about it. Yeah, we have just a few more seconds away before the top of the hour.
Already?
Yeah. 11 o'clock. Yeah, 5 seconds, 4 seconds. It's 11. And the time has been well spent. Great topic this evening.
Yes.
Excellent choice, Mrs. Mahon. Yeah, you suggested it. Excellent choice. Yes, Uma, that time reach. That time reach. I know we're enjoying it. But yeah, the time reach. Excellent dialogue as well. We always we let you all know that we appreciate the interaction. Your input, your comments, so much, especially when these programs are on. Um, and again, yeah, we have a next one coming up. We have to do a part two.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, part two of, and that one will be going into how to untie.
Mm-hmm.
We'll delve into that a little bit more. So, yes, we touched on a little bit of it, but we'll get into that part um, the fourth Thursday of the month. So we at the 9th. So it will be the 23rd is our next segment. So looking forward to Soul Ties Part 2. Is Mrs. Mahon, no? She's never finished a topic anything.
What date would that be?
The 23rd. 23rd of May.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you interested in sending us a comment, you would like to speak with us one on one, let us know. Reach out to us. The email address
Mm-hmm. The email address is
loveandmarriagett@gmail.com.
You sound so much nicer saying it.
Right?
Mhm.
So reach out to us, loveandmarriagett@gmail.com.
Mhm.
And we'll take it from there. Yeah. Yes, Naoms, beautiful topic. Okay, will do. Vernell, thank you so much. She said, great as always. Do have a wonderful night. Get home safely. Will do. Of course not. Of course not. Yeah, we here. Um, so this is how we wrap up this segment, this edition of Marriage Mentors. As we said, next one, part two, would be on the 23rd of the month. So mark your calendars, set the time. I like to do that. Systems. That's the word. Um, everything is a reminder and an alarm and an email, a notification. That's what your phone there for. Help you. Nobody uses those things more than me, I think. Everything. I use both virtual assistants on my phone. We have the normal Google Assistant, and then, well, with Samsungs, you have, with some Samsungs, you have Bixby. I use both of them. I have two secretaries that are virtual. AI secretaries that my wife don't have to worry about. They keep it strictly business.
Mhm.
Keep it strictly business, and I'm glad about that. Yeah. So this is how we wrap it up and put it away until the next one.
Yes, Neoms. Yes.
Leslie in Central. Yes, it is recorded. And you can, it's been, well, all these segments, not all, but a lot of the segments recently have been uploaded consistently. Ego was uploaded, part one and two, the ones before that, and the ones before that. Can't remember all the topics, but yes, you can look for Marriage Mentors on YouTube, and you'll find more of the the past uploaded videos. This one will be uploaded between tomorrow and Saturday morning. Yeah.
Well, we'll see how it goes. We'll see
Yes.
how it
We'll
goes.
try to do it.
I think we need to do a little editing and stuff, and then we'll put it up.
We'll try to do it. Yeah. So until the next one, Mr. and Mrs. Mahon saying ciao for now.
Love you much. Ladies,
Gentlemen,
married people,
courting couples,
and all our single folk,
we've got something just for you.
Marriage Mentors.
Sky 99.5 FM Reloaded is the place to be every second and fourth Thursday from 9 p.m.
So 11 p.m.
with yours truly, Mr. and Mrs. Mahon. Join the conversation as we dive deep into the taboo topics around love, marriage, and relationships. Topics like sex and intimacy,
How to live and cleave,
money,
trust issues,
infidelity,
singles in the church,
and more. So join us every second and fourth Thursday from 9 p.m.
to 11 p.m.
right here on Sky 99.5 FM Reloaded.